and welcome to the very first episode of Charlotte Pride's new monthly web show. We are so excited to bring this new project to you. Over the next hour and a half, you're going to have so much wonderful content. And like this show, and on the second Wednesday of every month for all of the next shows we'll be having coming up, we are going to be highlighting and uplifting the people, places, and things that make LGBTQ Charlotte so special. Just to give you a little bit of a preview of what you can expect on this show and future shows, a couple of things that I'm really excited about is a recap of all the important LGBTQ news, arts, entertainment topics that have happened over the past month. We're partnering with the wonderful James Rice from Time Out Youth in order to do that. You'll see that coming up in just a little bit. Another thing I'm really excited about that'll be a regular feature for us is our featured interview. And then on this show, you get to hear from Angel Truesdale from the Charlotte Film Society and the efforts that they have to build an independent art house nonprofit cinema here in Charlotte. We'll also have entertainers, lots of Q&As. It's a really exciting project, and I'm really glad I get to work with my beautiful coworkers here to make it happen for you every month.
Hi, y'all. I'm Matt's beautiful coworker, Nada. So to talk a little bit about the purpose of the web show, the reason why we did this is because of COVID-19. We're still doing virtual programming, but we wanted all our virtual programming to be compact in one space where it's easily accessible, the information is available for all, and it's a way for everyone to just be able to centralize information that's happening in the LGBTQ community. So I'm really excited about the web show. I'm excited to kind of centralize a lot of the work that we've been doing for the last couple of months. And just really, really excited to see how people react to it and what we can bring attention to, what we can bring awareness to. And to pivot, you can contact us to work with us on the web show. If you have any ideas for programs, for interviewees, for businesses, or for nonprofits that need to be spotlighted, please just leave us a comment in the comment section below or send us an email. All our emails are easily found at our website, charlottepride.org.
Yeah, and as they've both said, so excited to share what we have prepared for y'all in this episode and every upcoming episode of the Charlotte Pride TV monthly web show. It's going to be a really great opportunity for us to spotlight, as they've said, all the incredible partners and groups doing work throughout the community. We also want to take a moment to say a special thank you to our sponsors who have been a partner that has helped us keep our lights on, like these wonderful in-studio lights, and make sure that we're able to make programming like this and the other things we've done throughout the year. Special thank you, of course, to our presenting sponsors, Bank of America, PNC Bank, and Wells Fargo. And just before the very first segment, you'll see on screen all of the wonderful people who have helped us keep our programming alive this year. So we really hope you enjoy this very first introductory episode to Charlotte Pride TV, and we look forward to sharing all these stories with you tonight.
What's up, everybody? My name is James Rice III, but you can call me JR3. I'm so excited to join this new project with Charlotte Pride, and especially excited because every month on Charlotte Pride TV, I'll be one of the first faces you see. I'll be your host for the Rainbow Rundown, a collection of the most important community news each month. You can find a weekly version of the Rainbow Rundown every Friday on the Charlotte Pride blog. Be sure to check it out at charlottepride.org/blog. So let's get started. First up this month's top story, vote, vote, vote. The election ends in just a few weeks on Election Day, November 3rd. In-person early voting starts October 15th and runs through October 31st. If you missed the deadline to register to vote or need to update your current voter registration, you can do so at an early voting location. You'll hear more about the importance of voting later on in this episode. For now, be sure to bookmark charlottepride.org/vote 2020, where you can find a quick and easy guide to all you need to know to vote this year. Moving on to our other top stories. In the second week of October, heartbreaking news hit the national LGBT community upon the passing of Monica Roberts, a pioneering Black trans activist and journalist. Roberts, who was 58 when she passed on Monday, October 5th, was the founder of the award-winning blog Transgrio. She played a significant role in all kinds of activism in her hometown of Houston, Texas, and across the nation. A fiercely outspoken advocate, Roberts' coverage of trans issues, including coverage of transphobic violence, is credited for bringing more mainstream national attention to trans people. Condolences and accolades have poured in from across the country, including remarks from the Human Rights Campaign president, Alphonso David, who said Roberts was an icon and a trailblazing voice for transgender rights. In late September, history was made when the National LGBTQ Task Force announced the promotion of their next leader. Kiera Johnson will become executive director in early 2021, making her their first black executive director since the organization's founding in 1973. She is currently employed as their deputy director. The history-making moment at the task force comes just 1 year after Alphonso David was hired as the first black president of the Human Rights Campaign. In more local news, the North Carolina State Board of Education has released the results of its latest statewide youth risk behavior survey. Conducted in 2019, the new survey shows a disproportionate risk of suicidal behavior among LGBT students in the state. The report found that nearly 3 times the number of LGBTQ students reported seriously considering suicide versus their non-LGBTQ student peers. 22% of LGBTQ students reported attempting suicide, also nearly 3 times the risk of non-LGBTQ students. The board has said the new data highlights the need for more mental health professionals in schools, including school counselors, social workers, psychologists, and nurses. And finally, a little good news to brighten your day. Our friends at P-Flag Charlotte have released a new video highlighting the stories of 3 incredible families. One profiles parents raising a transgender teenage son. Another includes a mom and her parenting journey with her young trans daughter. And the last includes the story of an accepting father and his love for his gay son. You can see the full video at charlottepride.org/blog. That's also where you can find other stories, blog posts, and each week's Rainbow Rundown. And speaking of the rundown, that's it for this month. We hope to see you back here on Charlotte Pride TV in November.
Honestly, we should have used a condom, but we got distracted.
Honestly, we've been together for a while, so...
Getting tested never really crossed my mind.
I know I should get tested for HIV, but honestly...
I'm afraid to find out.
Honestly, I should ask him about his HIV status, but...
What if he gets weird about it?
Honestly, no one wants to think about HIV, but there are things that everyone can do to help protect their sexual health.
It starts with condoms and getting regularly tested for HIV and other STIs, so you know your status.
And talk honestly with a healthcare provider about your sexual health and all your prevention options.
If you're HIV negative, you and your healthcare provider can decide if PrEP may be right for you. PrEP means taking prescription medicine every day to help lower your chances of getting HIV.
And be honest with your partner. Talk to them about their HIV status. When you do, it can help you both be more protected.
I'm gonna get tested and find out about all of my prevention options.
Because honestly,
Honestly,
Our health is worth protecting.
Hello, thank you all for watching the very first Charlotte Pride monthly web show. We've had a lot of fun putting this together, and we really hope that you're enjoying all of the segments that are happening in the show. You will continue to see this every month, and one of the things you'll see every month is a very special segment where we bring in a special guest for a featured interview, and we have arrived now to that part of the show. Today, for our very first featured interview, we have Angel Truesdale, who is the Vice President of the Charlotte Film Society. Now, the Charlotte Film Society was founded in 1982, and it is a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing a choice in movie-going experiences. The Film Society's primary mission is to bring foreign, classic, and independent films to Charlotte that might not otherwise come. Charlotte Pride has partnered with Charlotte Film Society for several years now with Real Out Charlotte, our local LGBTQ film festival that'll be coming up in just a week or two, so just keep a watch. And we're very excited to have you, Angel.
Thank you.
You've been a board member with the Film Society for about 8 years. You're here to tell us about a very special project that you all are working on. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, tell us a little bit more about yourself. how you got involved in the Film Society.
Okay. So yeah, I've been on the board for about 8 years now, and I first heard of the Film Society through the Charlotte Film Festival, actually. I'm born and raised in Charlotte. I went to school here, undergrad at UNC Charlotte, and I took film studies as a minor, and one of my film studies professors one day said that the Charlotte Film Festival was looking for volunteers, and I've been a lifelong film and TV enthusiast, and I just love movies, and so it just seemed like kind of a natural fit to volunteer. The Film Society had been a long-time sponsor of the Charlotte Film Festival, and so when I transitioned from the Film Festival, I went and volunteered for the Film Society and almost immediately became on the board, and I'm still here. So I love Charlotte, my hometown, and I love film. Hopefully you can see that. And I really feel like that those two things should be synonymous. Like, I want people to know that Charlotte is a city that has film and actually can support a film enthusiast audience.
It really is. A lot of people don't realize how many film events take place. You all do some. Tell us a little bit more about the Film Society, some of your major projects, programs throughout the year.
Yeah, so like you said, we were founded in 1982, and our kind of film program has evolved over time, but right now we usually have about 2 film series that we screen movies at monthly, so pre-COVID, of course, where we would show films that would engage the audience in a certain way, or genre films. So we would show movies at Theater Charlotte, or at C3 Lab in South End, and then we would also show some movies at Art Video, so which is our kind of last remaining video store, DVDs, Blu-rays too, and we would show movies on a monthly basis, and we would try to get people to engage further with film, not just for entertainment purposes, but for the art form that it is. And then we have a film series that isn't monthly, it's not regular, but we try to bring in the filmmakers of that film to interact with the audience for Q&A, or even if it's just like a recorded intro, just so that people can kind of connect with the actual creators and the artwork that goes into making a film. So that's kind of our regular program pre-COVID. Since COVID hit, we've been doing a lot of streaming and virtual, what we call our virtual screening room. So that's how we've been engaging with our audience since everything's happened. So that's most of what we do. This year, I will say, we just acquired the Charlotte Film Festival. So if you were confused earlier with me using the word festival or society, a lot of people always confuse the two organizations, and having volunteers like me skip between the two was very confusing. And so earlier this year, we kind of did, I wouldn't call it a merger, but we acquired, since we were a major sponsor of the film festival, we just kind of took over management from the nonprofit that used to manage it. And now this year was our first year being kind of the manager of the Charlotte Film Festival. So that will become our major event of the year that kind of corresponds with our monthly series that we're doing. But that may change with our new project.
Yeah. So that brings us to this is a really big project.
Yeah.
There's been some local news coverage about it. Actually, not just some. There's been a lot of local news coverage about it. And we were excited about it because, we have Real Out Charlotte. We've partnered with the Film Society before. This is obviously something we're very excited about, because how cool would it be to show independent queer film in an independent nonprofit cinema, which is the big project that you all have. You're working now to raise money to open up a 3-screening room, nonprofit independent cinema. Why? Why now? First, 2 questions. Why a nonprofit cinema?
Right.
And why now?
Yeah, so why nonprofit is because we feel like Charlotte would really thrive under a nonprofit model for a movie theater. Most of the art house or independent film that we've had on screens in Charlotte have come from major corporations. And we feel, we as a nonprofit, and thinking about Charlotte Pride and Real Out Charlotte, we feel like we've always kind of been nomads. We haven't been able to afford those corporations corporation rental rates for the movie theaters. We've always had to screen our movies in makeshift, auditoriums. We've had to make do with different venues here and there, which has been great because that does create stronger bonds between nonprofits. And yes, we especially called our cinema a community cinema because as a nonprofit, our mission is to connect more with the community and to make sure that we are listening to the audience that we directly interact with. If you are a major business or corporation, sometimes you may not really have to listen to the audience that come into your establishment. So we are calling this a community cinema because we truly want this to be of the community, and we want the films and the programming and the education that comes from this movie theater to be of the community. So we felt like our nonprofit would be great because we are 38 years old, we know what we're doing, and we feel like we can try to connect some of the other things that are in the community that are kind of film exhibition. So our plans, you kind of hit on them a little bit, but we have acquired a space, or we have contracted to do a letter of intent for a space for 3 screens. And we are planning on 2 kind of medium-sized auditoriums and 1 smaller one that will be kind of a little bit more of an intimate screening room. And we plan to really upfit and equip the place with modern technology that you would see in any other movie theater. And just to kind of go back a little bit to the nonprofit model, there are a lot of art house theaters across the nation that have gone nonprofit, and we actually have tapped into that network of other art house theaters, and we have really done our research and our due diligence to see what other nonprofit theaters are doing. So we're really excited about this. And why now, right? So we've thought about this for years. I mean, even just thinking about other film organizations like yourself, Charlotte Pride with Real Out Charlotte, and other film festivals and film exhibition groups, or just film organizations that support local filmmakers. Again, it's been hard to afford those rental rates of some of the other venues in Charlotte. And so we have in the past kind of, just paid the money to rent those spaces out, and right now those spaces don't exist. So Charlotte went from 13 screens of art house theaters, corporate run, about 3 years ago to 0. In May, the Manor Theater was the last remaining art house theater venue, and they were closed due to COVID-19. There's some other things that can be said about that, but we lost Park Terrace a while ago, and then Ballantyne Village closed in earlier, like January of this year, and then May, the Manor Theater closed. And so we had been talking about this for some years, and when the Manor closed, it just seemed like we needed to do this. It wasn't just like we wanted to do this, we felt like we could. We wanted to have it be a nonprofit, but we felt like this was the right time. Now, asterisk with that, caveat, yes, we are in a global pandemic, and COVID-19 has definitely put a wrench in a lot of things, but we did feel like with the Manor closing, which was, a theater that had been open for over 70 years. It's entrenched in the community. People know the Manor mostly for being an art house theater for the last at least 20 years of its operation, and we just felt like the Charlotte Film Society was ready to take this next step, because we've been slowly, kind of quietly planning for this for a while.
Yep. Well, I know it is very exciting, and you brought up an interesting point about a lot of the spaces being corporate run, but also a lot of the spaces are really big.
Yeah.
So if you have a smaller event, or you have a film where you might be able to get 75, because it's just like a unique niche film or something. Putting 75 people in an auditorium that seats 300 is, Charlotte just you have either facilities that are way too small or way too big.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Now you all are, you have a goal with your fundraising. It's $150,000, and just recently you're at right about half in just what, a couple months?
Just
right?
in a couple months. Yeah, we started at the end of July. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
What are you all raising the money for?
Yeah, so this initial $150,000 that we put as a goal on our GoFundMe is for the equipment. So it's for our projectors, all of the technical equipment that go along with that, and to really just build out the equipment that would go into a projection booth. So separate projectors for each auditorium, all of the computers and hard drives that go into that, the screens even, all of the information that needs to be sent from the projectors to the screen. So all of that equipment is about roughly for three auditoriums is about $150,000. So we knew immediately that was going to be a cost that we had if we're not looking at other building requirements. So and we're really excited. We were really kind of, I wouldn't say nervous, but we just wanted to kind of test the waters to see, how the community would respond, especially with us, again, being very cognizant of us being in a pandemic right now. But we did feel like, let's put ourselves out there and see if the community wanted it. And because we have raised almost half of that $150,000 now within the 2 months, we are like, we know the community wants it, and we are dedicated to giving the community, and we're committed to it for sure.
Yep. Now you all have to upfit the space, but you say you're going to save a little bit of money because you mentioned the Manor Theater earlier.
Yeah.
They closed, and you all were able to get a lot of stuff. What were you all able to get from Manor that people will see in the new space?
Yeah, so you will see the Manor Seats in our new theater. When we open, we are installing the Manor Seats. I can't say the exact amount, and if both of our medium auditorium size auditoriums will have all Manor Seats, but for the most part they will. Because a lot of our board has worked in kind of movie theaters and film exhibition as projectionists, we have had some local connections, and we not only have stuff from the Manor, but a little bit from Valentine as well. So you will see kind of that old touch there with a new space. So definitely be on the lookout for our announcements for when we actually can get in the space and really kind of see what we'll be able to fit in there.
So that's something new, but also maintaining the history and legacy of film in Charlotte too. Yeah. So you all are going to be opening up in a location that is right near the Sugar Creek Light Rail Station. It's very, very close to the heart of NODA. How did you all choose that location?
Yeah, so when the Manor closed, we were kind of scrambling, and we were kind of like, what is going to happen to Art House Theater, film exhibition in Charlotte? And we were actually approached. We were really happy to see that there were a couple of different venues across town that may be able to be upfit into a movie theater. Again, we had kind of already had our feelers out there, if you want to say that. And we were really happy to see that Flywheel Group, who we're working with near the Sugar Creek links, the Blue Light Rail Station, are outfitting some spaces for arts organizations. And it just so happens that there's a building over there right near that light rail stop, just one stop from the NODA stop at 35th Street. And that actually space, the elevation of the ceiling, it lends it perfectly to having a movie theater and having a big screen, multiple big screens in that space. So we were really happy to work with, like I said, Flywheel Group, and we have a letter of intent with them, and we're moving forward with having the space there. And we're excited because, I think it's like 0.2, maybe 0.3 miles from the actual stop, and that is, there's even a parking deck right there that's really great. That's supplemental parking for what we'll already have at the location. So we're just extremely excited. And for the Sugar Creek and Tryon area, that is just like at the edge of NODA. And we do want to connect with the NODA Arts District that we know is still alive and still there. And the people who live there and work there and enjoy entertainment there, we know that just short extension out to Sugar Creek won't be too far. Yeah. We're hoping.
So we've mentioned it a couple times already. We are in the midst of a global pandemic.
Yeah.
COVID. We did wear masks until it was time for us to sit down. We are a little bit of far ways apart.
Yeah.
How is COVID affecting y'all's development of the theater? You originally had plans to open up in 2021,
Yes.
or summer or fall 2021. What kind of precautions you all taking? Has COVID affected your timeline?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I mean, even before we decided on that location, we thought about how the pandemic was going to affect any opening of any type of venue anywhere. And so we do have it kind of worked in that we won't open until, or we are trying to be cognizant of how the pandemic is moving, and we want to open post-pandemic, or at least at the very end, where we feel like people will feel it's safe to come back into a movie theater. So while we are saying summer and fall of 2021, we will reserve the right to move that back if that so happens. We are even thinking about, our Charlotte Film Festival. We just had it, and so that's usually always at the end of September. So we're like, if we could open before then, that would be great, so we can host our very own film festival in this space. So we're just keeping an eye out on what that looks like, what that means. We do have a timeline for when we intend to start building and upfitting the space. But that timeline will certainly be, we'll be looking at what that looks like as the pandemic progresses. So we have a provision to make sure that we try to open as close to we feel like the public is ready to come back to movie theaters as possible.
Well, fingers crossed, because that would be amazing to have
Yeah.
the grand opening coincide with the Charlotte Film Festival.
Yeah.
So the big ask of the community right now is to contribute to the fundraising campaign. How can people do that? Where should they go?
Yeah, I mean, we have a big kind of banner button on our website, charlottefilmsociety.org. You can also go directly to GoFundMe and just search for Charlotte Film Society or Charlotte Community Cinema. That's the easiest way, because the link is so long. It's kind of like charity.gofundme.com and Charlotte Community Cinema, that I usually just tell people to go to our website, and that's probably the best way. And if you are interested in getting involved in other ways, if you're interested in volunteering, or if you would like to connect with us on any other fundraising ideas, please get in touch with us. Again, if you go to our website, you'll find our contact information there.
Well, thank you very much for sharing all of this information with us. For those who are watching, again, that's charlottefilmsociety.org. You can contribute to the campaign to get a local, independent, nonprofit community theater and cinema here in Charlotte. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you for coming in and sharing with us.
Thank you.
Hey y'all, it's Davita, your reigning Miss Charlotte Pride. Although today I'm going to be wearing my Professor Davita hat. Of course, by hat, I mean this fabulous wig that I'm wearing. Alright, so today we're going to be learning about some gay slang 101. Have you ever heard someone call someone else a Mary, a Nancy, a Nellie, or a Molly? The odds are that you've heard these phrases in older gay shows or movies, or read them in older gay periodicals or literature, or maybe heard it directly from older gay people. Or maybe you're familiar with a well-known chain of restaurants called Hamburger Mary's, which is a popular and funky gay-themed restaurant which started in San Francisco in 1972. All of these words are older slang words dating back to the early 20th century, used to describe effeminate gay men, often in a negative manner. You'll notice that these names are all traditionally feminine names. That's part of the reason why they can be considered derogatory. Because conflating the lack of masculinity in men with being a woman or with being weak is not only homophobic, it's sexist. Sometimes this slang is used affectionately among friends, and that's okay. But outside of that, you should probably steer clear of using them. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Gay Slang 101 with Professor Davita.
All right. right, that was wonderful. Thank you so much to our community members who are part of these previous videos, and thank you for continuing on watching with us tonight. My name is Jerry Yelton. I use they, them, and he, him pronouns, and I'm really excited to be joined by some friends from Equality, North Carolina, who I'll let introduce themselves in just a moment. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of voting and some really important things to know as a voter, particularly for our trans and GNC communities. So Kendra and Artie, if y'all want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Jerry, for having us. I'm Kendra. I use she and her pronouns, and I serve as the Executive Director of Equality North Carolina. I'm based here in Durham, but I love Charlotte and hope I'll get an opportunity to visit during early voting.
Awesome. Artie?
Hey y'all, I'm Artie Hartsell. I use they, them, theirs pronouns. I'm the advocacy and elections strategist at Equality North Carolina. I lived in Charlotte for my entire life until 2019, where I moved to Waynesville out in the mountains. So such a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. We're really glad to have you both. This is such an important year, such an important election year, as is every single one. Make sure you're voting in municipal elections, not just in the presidential cycles. But want to hear a little bit from the two of y'all about why voting is so important and why it's really necessary for queer people to go out to the polls.
Yeah, so this year is, every year voting is important, but this particular year, we need to really, in the midst of this global pandemic, get out to elect the representation that we deserve that's going to handle this pandemic, which is disproportionately impacting Black and brown folks, the LGBTQ community, and resource poor folks. We are the frontline and essential workers, and we need a comprehensive plan that's going to put our lives back on track and give us access to affordable health care. We have really, as you alluded to, just an incredible slate of candidates that I think could deliver the promise of some return to normalcy. But our community has been under attack for the last 3 to 4 years. Since we've had marriage equality, we've been facing a rollback, particularly for the trans and gender nonconforming community, of every single right that we had attained. We have a trans ban in the military. We had attempts to strip away health care for trans and gender nonconforming folks. We had attacks on the census, and we're really experiencing an incredible surge in hate crime violence. So we need people who are in office, who are fighting for our lives, really. And one of the most important ways that we can make our voices known is at the ballot box. And we need to use that power because so many people fought for us to have the right to vote. We need to exercise it.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope that message rings true with those of you that are joining us and watching tonight. One of the things that I wanted to talk about with y'all specifically is the distinct barriers that face our trans and gender nonconforming communities here in North Carolina, which frequently discourage our voters from heading out to the polls. What words do y'all have? What advice do you have for voting while trans in North Carolina?
I'll let Artie start out talking about this because they developed with Ames, our policy director, a really great guide on and have trained several members of the Board of Elections on how to be more supportive to the trans and GNC community. So Artie, I'm going to turn it over to you to lead out.
Thank you, Kendra. Yeah, this is super exciting. One thing that's important to note before we add in before I go into this is that only 1 in 5 of eligible LGBT adults is, 1 in 5 eligible LGBT adults is not registered to vote. And Kendra talked about power. We would have so much power if we showed up and exercise this right that we have. And that's why voter suppression is happening. They know that we would be powerful if we can all get to the ballot box. Trans and GNC people definitely face barriers when it comes to voting, and some of those are legal. getting a name change, getting a legal gender marker changed. Some of those happen at the polling place where somebody might question whether your name on the voter roll, quote, looks like you, or looks like someone who you look like someone who would have that name. So Kendra's right. Ames and I trained 240 election professionals across the state to work well with trans and gender nonconforming voters, and they are sharing that training with all of the poll workers in their counties this year. So we are really excited that everybody has this training to help this access. We have so much on the line, and showing up, and trans and gender nonconforming people showing up in particular, is a powerful voting block, and we can really make a difference. And so that's why we're making sure that we did this guide so that trans and gender nonconforming voters know their rights and know what to do in case there is a situation. But we are confident also in our election professionals and the people that we've trained.
And I'd just like to add that a couple of important things to note. Voter ID is not required in this election cycle. There's been a lot of misinformation about that. So if someone asks for your vote for ID, you are not required to show it. One important resource that people can utilize that has culturally competent folks who understand these issues is 188 Our Vote. If folks are facing harassment at the polls, you should not be turned away. There are people in your corner who can support you if someone is profiling you because of your presentation. Early voting starts on October 15th and will run through October 31st. We encourage people who want to vote in person to get to the multiple locations that they have around the state to do that. And if you're voting on election day, get there early. We anticipate lines. Additionally, there are absentee ballots. That's a great way for folks who are afraid of being profiled at the polls to exercise their vote. But please be careful in filling out the witness section, making sure that it's signed, that there is an address for the witness who saw you take your vote. And because of the issues we're having with the post office, check into dropping it off at the Board of Elections if you can.
Fantastic. Thank you both. We'll make sure that the guide that Artie mentioned and the resources Kendra noted are dropped in the comments. That way you can just hop right over directly to these resources and make use of them as you're heading out to early vote, vote absentee, or voting on election day. Any final words that y'all want to share with our viewers watching about things to keep in mind as they head to the polls, or important things to do or not do in the voting process?
Yeah, I just want to add that, I think we stress that it's really important that folks vote. Don't give away your power. If you need to look and see what candidates have what positions, we have a voter guide on our site, and we've vetted pro-equality candidates. We encourage you to take a look there to know, and it covers the full state. We endorsed 147 candidates in this election, and we asked them questions that range from their stance on immigration, education, comprehensive non-discrimination, violence, all of the things that impact our community. So that's a resource. If you don't want to use our guide, there are plenty of other guides that highlight every position that these candidates have taken. But cast your vote and get involved. There's still a lot of work to do to get pro-equality candidates elected. And, we're inviting everyone to take part in our weekend of action, which is the 9th through the 11th. But we'll be doing things all the way up to the election day to make sure that people can safely cast their vote and get all of the information that they need. So if you need additional information on how to get engaged, just visit equalitync.org, and you'll have everything you need to know about voting, including that guide that Jerry referenced.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both so much for joining us. Everyone, please go vote. I love what Kendra said. Don't let go of your power. It's so important that we take use of that and that we show what candidates we are here for and are standing up for our communities and those intersectional communities. So thank you so much again to Kendra and Artie. It's been a pleasure chatting with y'all, and enjoy the next clip coming up right now.
All right. Thank you, Jared. Thanks for having us.
Everyone has that one movie or TV show that helped form their identity as an LGBTQ person living today. So for this segment, it's called Media That Made Me. And we're going to have community members speaking to different movies, TV shows, video games, or other pieces of media that helped them come out and become the person that they are today. This week, we're going to have Jenny and Lupe speaking. These are actually the two coordinators for Real Out Charlotte, which is going to start on Friday, October 23rd. This is an LGBTQ film festival where you can watch LGBTQ movies that might end up being media that makes you, you.
I guess the piece of queer media that shaped my life or changed my direction probably was Mrs. Doubtfire. Mainly because just how Robin Williams' character, even though it wasn't a trans character, he presented female and to be a part of his kids' lives and be a part of their family. And you know, it was a big impactful thing for me because I stayed in the closet so long. I came out as trans so late in my life that I know what it feels like to try to hold on to a sense of normalcy, even if that normalcy is not your real life. So that's probably the one movie that really impacted me the most if I'm going to think about something that was genderqueer or staying in the closet and or trying to protect my family and from my reality.
The piece of queer media that kind of got to me was a movie back from the late 90s called The Opposite of Sex. It was Christina Ricci, and you know, she played kind of a terrible person, but it did involve, I think it was like her uncle who was a gay man and had a relationship, and then there was a lot of turmoils. And actually part of the theme of the movie was like, there must be more than just sex. It's the opposite of sex. What is that? What could it be? So it kind of spoke to me. It really got me thinking, you know, what is there in a relationship that is sex and that could be non-sexual? And that was a really good thing that kind of made me thinking, especially back then. I guess that was when I was coming out and really figuring myself out. So with that kind of movie speaking to me back then, it just really did have kind of an impact on me. It really did make me think about what else there is or what else there could be, and more about myself. So that's one of the movies that kind of impacted me, and it's a piece of queer media that got me to think a little bit more about myself and about relationships in general and where to go from here, since I was, I don't know, probably 17 actually. Wow.
All right, thank you so much to Jenny and Lupe for participating in our very first favorite queer media segment. Really excited to hear what things that y'all love and excited for where this can go in the future. As they said, make sure you tell us who you want to see in the favorite queer media segment, as well as all of the others that you've seen throughout this episode. We want to hear from you what worked well, what you'd like to see different, and who you'd like to see involved. Next up, I'm going to talk with Nada about a new segment that we're going to kick off in our second webinar called Queer Complexities. Nada, can you tell us a little bit about what Queer Complexities is going to be and look like?
Yeah, so Queer Complexities is basically going to be an opportunity for us to talk about the discourse surrounding the queer community that we all know is changing, like essentially year by year. There are a lot of topics where there's no real tangible scientific study done on them, but we know that they exist, and we know that they're things that we need to have conversations around. But sometimes it can be really scary to do that online and in person because people can be scared of having like the wrong opinion or saying the wrong things. So Queer Complexities is basically going to be an open format for us to talk about things such as neopronouns or outing as activism and things that are really complex and multi-layered and three-dimensional that like we have to take a couple minutes to really break down to develop a true understanding on.
Yeah. I'm excited for it because it's going to let us delve past a 101 is why Nada initially suggested this, because so many of our conversations go, here's the basal understanding, and that's important because there are so many people who are learning about our terms for the first time, but delving deeper is important too.
Yeah, like, I don't know if you were like an early 2000s Tumblr kid.
Oh, absolutely.
But there were so many times where things would happen where like kin, for one, like where people were starting to develop kin with characters from like animes and TV shows and stuff, and we're saying like that is a part of the queer community. And you saw like so many different opinions surrounding that where people were like, no, like we immediately reject this. This is a mental illness. Some people say like, no, this is not a mental illness. It's completely normal to identify with characters. In the same way that some people identify with certain genders. And it just became such a toxic discourse so fast that, like, we never really understood what kin is. Like, even now to this day, like, I still have some confusion around that. And that applies with a lot of things. Like, the conversation about, like, people say bisexuality is inherently transphobic. And that pansexuality is a better, more inclusive representation of, like, what bisexuality is. Then there are people that say, like, these are two completely separate things. One has no, like, one is not, like, more transphobic than the other. And then some people are saying they're the same things. And there's so much in queer discourse that is similar to conversations like that. To where, like, it just seems to be two sides arguing, and then, like, the one side in the middle, which, like, encompasses most of us, who, like, has no clue what's going on.
Yep,
like,
exactly. Yeah, I'm excited for us to kind of delve into that middle, and don't expect these conversations to end with, here's the magical solution.
Yeah.
Expect them to end with, here's a lot of information, and here's how you can think about it. Here's where you can learn more. Can you tell us a little bit about how the format is going to work for people to participate in these conversations separate from the web show?
Yeah, so these are actually going to be Zoom rooms, so there will be organized speakers. The first will be someone who kind of gives us a presentation on the topic in like the most sort of scientific way they can. And then we're going to have people who are experts on the topics or who actually live out the topic in their day-to-day experience. So like if the topic is like bisexuality, neopronouns, we would speak to someone who utilizes neopronouns. And then we would have them sort of respectfully explain their perspective on the issue, ask them some questions around the discourse surrounding the issue and why that discourse exists, why we need to be having conversations about this, what are some misconceptions, why those misconceptions may exist, what are correct assumptions that people may not realize are correct assumptions regarding the community. And then from there will be an open Q&A format where people can ask both the main speaker that gives the presentation and the folks who are sort of speaking on their opinion on the topic and experience any questions that they may have, because like it's expected that questions should come up while we go through the Queer Complexities web show. Like the goal is to make you think about things that like we probably see a lot on like Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr and stuff. But never really have like real tangible conversations on in an environment that isn't so stressful that it's really difficult to have those transparent conversations. Yeah. Like social media stresses me out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So keep an eye out for coming soon the announcement about our first Queer Complexities filming session. How this will work is we will set the first speaker and the first topic very soon. That person will give the presentation via Zoom to a room of people, and then we'll open up that conversation to expand further. And then we will re-air just that first presentation as a part of the webinar next month. So if you want to be a part of the discourse, make sure you join us for that Zoom room coming up soon. But thank you so much for telling us a little bit more, Nada.
Yeah, thank you for interviewing me, Jerry.
Absolutely, anytime. And enjoy what's coming up next.
Bye.
All right. Thank you so much, Nada, for telling us a little bit more about Queer Complexities. I'm really excited to see what comes out of that as a portion of our monthly web show. Again, as Nada lets you know, Please drop whatever types of conversations you'd like to see us have in the comments below, and we'll definitely make sure that's a part of it in the future. But now, I'm really excited to be joined by my good buddy Tiffany Crooks, who is one of our volunteers for Charlotte Pride. This segment is going to be a community organization spotlight. Each different month, we're going to have a interview conversation or a little segment on a different group in Charlotte doing really cool and unique things. To kick us off, we're spotlighting Charlotte Pride because our team coordinator applications are currently live for folks to be a part of our year-round volunteer team. So instead of just having me or Matt or Nada talk about it, because you've definitely seen and heard enough from us tonight, wanted to share a little bit with Tiffany. So Tiffany, you want to introduce yourself, tell us your name, your pronouns, what you do with Charlotte Pride, and who you are.
All right, I am Tiffany Crooks. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am the Flourish coordinator. That is the part of Pride that deals with the arts, performing and visual. And I was in charge of bringing out our local talent right here in Charlotte with dealing with the arts, which 2020 was an interesting year for that since a lot of things changed. But I do remember like that was some of the highlights, being able to showcase videos that showed different representation, having collaborating with somebody who does art that allows you to do storytelling through actual painting about rising up from a part of your history or your life and being brave in that moment. Watching our local choirs such as Gay Men's Chorus, One Voice, and Charlotte Pride Band perform, or even their small ensembles being able to perform in those moments and highlight the talent that's right here in Charlotte for what you can do. So, who I am. I'm just a person here.
Yeah, who are you?
Who am I? I am a local, lovely music teacher in CMS who I am actually pansexual. I am busy with life.
I think that's something that I and a lot of the people watching can probably relate to. Tiffany's one of my favorite people because this smile, as y'all can see, is just infectious. And there's such a bright joy that Tiffany always brings to her work. So excited to talk with you a little bit more about the process. As I said, our team coordinator applications are currently live. Tiffany, tell us a little bit about how you went through hearing about the Charlotte Pride volunteer opportunities, what the application process was like, and what people could expect from that.
So one is sign up. If you don't get the updates, sign up for the updates because they come to you. And then you're in the loop about what's going on with Charlotte Pride. How can you volunteer? What can you do? What are the different aspects of it? So yes, sign up to get the updates because it helps a lot. Yes, I am a part of this organization, so I kind of get stuff from them directly. But also before that, I was signing up for my email funny enough, I was in One Voice and I was in the small group Soda Voce. And we performed for one of the Charlotte Pride functions. I think it was one of the fundraisers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a help.
Yeah.
To help. And I had heard about like, oh, we're still looking for somebody to take over this area, which was Flourish. And so I just went up, talked to Jerry and Matt, and it was just like, hey, do you still have that opening? I'm interested. What can I do? And just started that process and going through. Now we have applications. So yes, go online. You got the update, get on Charlotte Pride. I think the website has it. The Facebook has it. Get on there, sign up. It's a really simple application, but do something that you know that you love, that you feel like you want to use your voice and to contribute to that area. For me, I love the arts, period. I'm like big crazy person about the arts. So I'm reapplying again to be the coordinator for Flourish because I love it. I loved organizing it. I loved bringing these groups together, bringing the poets, bringing the visual artists, all of it. And just, that's what I can say. Sign up, apply. You never know, because we always need all hands on deck.
Yes. And one of the things that we really try hard to do is to let everyone have some sort of role. So if you feel like this is the first time you've ever volunteered and you shouldn't sign up for like an official part of the team or something like that, nah, let this be your first thing that you've been involved with. Let this be your 500th. There's a way for us to bring everyone into the team and get to hang out with cool people like Tiffany.
Yes.
Which is always a bonus.
Yes.
Awesome.
And no reason, just take the leap of faith. Just literally take the leap of faith. If you get the urge, take the leap of faith, go for it, and just see, because from there you can make some really great friends, meet some really cool people, you know, have really great conversations, and just overall improve your life. And then also meet and connect with people that are part of our community, which not all the times you are automatically seeing that.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Tiffany, for spending a few minutes with me to talk about it. As we said, applications are live right now. If you haven't gotten that point yet, like you may not be listening to the stream, go do it. Links will be on screen and in the comments. We really hope to have you as a part of the team. If you have questions, email one of us. Our emails are our first names at Charlotte Pride. It's nice and simple. You can easily find us and ask about what it's like to be a part of the team. And we hope to see you soon. So thank you so much for joining me, Tiffany.
No problem. I love it. I'm glad that you had me. I was just like, I haven't seen your face in so long.
I know, it's been too long. And
yes.
Hopefully soon enough, we'll be back in person with meetings to see each other and all of the lovely new people that are joining us.
Hello again. It's my honor to host this segment, QC Queer History, in each monthly Charlotte Pride TV. In the coming months, I'll take to the road and find various places of historical interest across the city and region, giving you a glimpse into what these spaces look like now and what they looked like in the past. We will explore some of the early and later locations of Charlotte's Pride events. We'll track down the location of Charlotte's 1980s era bathhouse. We'll scout out the locations of some of the city's earliest and most iconic public protests for queer rights. But in this very first episode, in our very first QC Queer History segment, I thought it would be important to pause and pay homage to one of Charlotte's most cherished leaders, without whom we probably wouldn't be here today making this monthly web show. Don King was, by no means, Charlotte's only early community leader, but there is no doubt he was among the most active, the most outspoken, and the most fierce. Born in 1942 in Wilmington, North Carolina, Don made his career in newspapers and moved to Charlotte in the early 1970s to work for the Charlotte Observer. It was here in the Queen City that Don began to come out and get involved in local community organizing, supporting and leading some of the city's earliest queer organizations. In 1981, Don and a friend, Billy Rose, founded Queen City Coordinators, or QCQ, a joint fundraising and umbrella group for several local LGBTQ organizations, like the Gay and Lesbian Switchboard and the city's Metropolitan Community Church. And it was through QCQ that Don assisted with the very earliest versions of Q Notes, our local LGBTQ newspaper, and became its first editor in 1986. It was also in 1986 that Don and his Closet Buster Productions created the Gay Lesbian Forum, a monthly cable access talk and news show for the local community. It was the city's first, and to my knowledge, only monthly LGBTQ show of its kind to screen on local cable. Outside of his community work, Don was a quiet voice for change inside the hallowed halls of our city's daily newspaper, pushing staff there to better understand and better cover the community and our issues. Don's legacy, of course, goes far beyond his work in the media. While he worked to inform the community through its queer media and ensure better coverage in mainstream media, it's important to remember the time in which he was doing all of this. The 1980s were not a kind time to our community, particularly not a kind time to gay and queer men, or trans women. The AIDS crisis was at its peak, and it had resulted in significant legal and criminal crackdowns, witch hunts, and suspicions for gay and trans people. The discussions, protests, and movements over police brutality this year and in recent years do not exist in a vacuum, and they certainly aren't new. Like Black people, the queer community too has had its fair share of not so pleasant interactions with the police. The intersections of our oppressions run deep. So it is now, and so it was in the 1980s. And it was Don King who led a strident campaign on behalf of the queer people targeted by local police in various undercover sting operations. He tracked the police's entrapment operations, advocated for the people targeted and arrested, and campaigned against policies that allowed local police to treat queer people in humiliating and dangerous ways. Without Don, these folks and their experiences would have undoubtedly been forgotten. Don, a mentor and friend to many, passed away at the age of 72 in 2014, and his legacy lives on. I am so lucky and grateful that I had the opportunity to know this visionary man. I was just a 21-year-old youth when I moved to Charlotte to take on a job he had held when I was just 4 months old. I'm also grateful for the ways he taught me to appreciate community history, and through his example, taught me the importance of advocating not for, but with the people whose voices are often unheard or ignored. I'm looking forward to taking these journeys into our local queer past with you. Come along for the ride. I'll see you next month. And finally, before we end our very first premiere episode of Charlotte Pride TV, we certainly can't forget the beautiful artistic talents of our community. In each episode, we'll reserve this time to spotlight a local arts group, artist, or entertainer. In this month's segment, we turn the spotlight to One Voice Chorus, Charlotte's first queer community chorus founded in 1989. They've graciously allowed us to air their new song, Sing as One, which premiered at their first all-virtual concert in August. Composed by the chorus's artistic director Corey Davis, the inspiration for Sing as One's words comes directly from the chorus's members themselves. It is a delightfully uplifting, inspiring, and hopeful piece. You can learn more about One Voice Chorus online at onevoicechorus.com. And if you know of a local artist, entertainer, or arts group which should be included in this monthly spotlight, let us know. Leave a comment as you're watching, or just shoot an email to media@charlottepride.org. Enjoy.
When the darkness comes to find you, when you don't see eye to eye, when it's hard to catch your breath, when you lose the strength to drive, when you can't hear the reason, when someone needs your help, while you're standing side by side to become your true self. Sing as one. When the darkness comes to find you, when you don't see eye to eye, when it's hard to stand your
Wow, what an incredible show that we've had this week. We really have enjoyed having all of our special guests, everyone from Kendra and Artie with Equality North Carolina, Lupe and Jenny from Real Out Charlotte, and all of the other amazing folks like Angel, like the performers, like our drag performers. It's really made a special way to bring together our community in spite of COVID-19 still keeping us apart. We also want to make sure that we're echoing how important it is for you to send in your suggestions and feedback. If you have segments you'd like to see, new things you'd like us to try, or things you don't think worked that you'd like us to see get rid of for the next episode, please let us know. We want to make sure you're enjoying this and that this is made for y'all, by y'all. Again, I want to say a special thank you to our sponsors and partners. Without them, we wouldn't continue to be able to do the programming that we've done and will continue to do. So again, thank you to Bank of America, PNC Bank, and Wells Fargo for your presenting sponsorship support, as well as to all of the rest of our amazing sponsors. Also want to take a moment to spotlight Real Out Charlotte. We've mentioned it a few times throughout the evening, but Real Out begins on Friday, October 23rd. That's only a week and a half away. So please make sure you join us for this virtual-only film festival. We're going to have a ton of movies available for you to watch at your leisure from home, as well as short films, all focusing on different LGBTQ identities, stories, and lives. We really hope that you'll find this as a way to kind of come together. You can start your own watch parties with friends, or you can join a couple of our watch parties. When we launch the full lineup this week, you can keep an eye out for all of the different things that are going on, some special talkbacks and Q&As with directors and actors, watch parties with our team, as well as the rest of the community, and just some really great queer cinema. So again, thank you so much to everyone for tuning in. We really have enjoyed having you with us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.